I just don't think industry is in a position now to trust education because we've broken so many promises. YouScience is the band-aid that fixes that. It'll bridge the gap. It'll fix the broken bridge between industry and education.
It's saying that like 77% of students said they would have been more engaged in school if they understood their aptitudes earlier.
Yep. Educators are always looking for easy solutions. Like, this is it. Like stop looking. Like, this is easy and it's effective. It's easy. It's not very good. and if it's good, it's not easy. Like, YouScience is easy and it's good. And those two things don't intersect very often in education.
That's 90% of employers say stronger K through 12 and post-secondary partnerships are critical to talent pipelines.
This is something that we're doing in my community, and I can't talk a lot about it, but I will crack the egg on this show just because you're that special.
You're listening to the Disrupt Education Podcast. Here are your hosts, Peter Hostrawser and Alli Dah.
Welcome back to the Disrupt Education Podcast. Hey, I have Alli Dah. I'm Peter Hostrawser. We're back again with the Talent Pipeline Specialist. Part 2, episode 2, I would call it. I don't know, part 2 of 1. I don't know. Episode 2 of our partnership with YouScience. I'm really excited for this one because now we're going to go into the real world, right? But Alli, how you doing? What's going on these days?
I think I gotta drop a little skydiving, every now and then.
Yep.
And I will say that it's interesting, like when I think about our journey podcasting together, and like we've podcasted together since I started skydiving, and like even I was thinking about, I didn't know really anything about skydiving until I got into it, and now I'm like 3.5 years and I'm a tandem skydiver. Come to Wisconsin if you want to skydive with me. But I think about even you, Peter, like you asked me questions all the time, and you had, your own experience, but now it's like you're exposed to it. And obviously our listeners are exposed to skydiving just because of the stories that I share. But skydiving came to me at a time where I really needed like purpose. And I didn't intentionally know that it was going to like grow to where it was. But like, I first had to be like aware, right? And like be exposed to the fear of doing something new and scary. And then I kind of found a pathway to like make it real. And I do it in the real world. What a shocker. But like, I think about the 18-year-olds that I take. So it's obviously a popular thing for 18-year-olds to do because they can legally do it. I've taken some high school seniors on their 18th birthday. And they think they know, what it's going to be or how they're going to feel or all this stuff. And some of them, it's like, wow, that was amazing, incredible. And, like, I totally want to keep doing this. And then other ones are like, check the box. I'm good. I think that's really important for experiences, is that you don't know until you do it. So like, okay, great. Like, I've been exposed to skydiving. Well, now I can assess, maybe I'm apt for it, maybe I'm not, but like, do I want to pursue it? Does it give me purpose? Am I going to be successful? Can I see a pathway? It just brings up all of these questions.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're taking me back to my tandem jump. I did not continue, although I wanted to. But that really kind of wraps up what we were talking about before when we were looking at the exposure to it, and then what do you do with it? Like, what are the steps that you take to kind of make it a little bit more connected to your life and what you're doing? And what does it mean to connect this type of education, when aptitudes, when interest, to lifelong success? And that's where we're going to go with Jason today. So welcome back, Jason. How are you doing, man?
Excited. Just, this is not many things I don't like talking about, but I love talking about careers in YouScience. This is just such a fun thing to talk about because it's so applicable and it's such low-hanging fruit. Like,
Got it.
educators are always looking for easy solutions. Like this is it. Like don't, like stop looking. Like this is easy and it's effective. And those things don't cross paths very often in education. YouScience is easy and it's good. And those two things don't intersect very often in education.
So let's dive into that and purpose, right? Education
Yeah.
with purpose.
Yeah.
What is that? I mean, we touched on it a little bit in the last episode, kind of setting the stage with the exposure gap. But now we've had this practice of, hey, guess what? We know stuff. And Allie knows skydiving existed. She tried it. So what does that look like to you? What does that mean in Jason Van Nuss's practice down in Georgia?
Education with purpose. Gosh, man, there's 1,000 things that you could go with there. We could go this efficient, not waste, like getting rid of waste. If education comes with purpose, like it's like a machine. It's just it's running, and kids know what to do. They know what to expect. They know what they're in. They're choosing the right programs. You don't the right tool for the right job. If I'm trying to move a bowling ball, I'm not going to pick a garden hose to do it with, right? I mean, using the right tool for the right job gets the right outcome. So efficient is one. I would say education with purpose is beyond box checking for compliance, beyond chasing test scores, beyond chasing credits, beyond chasing the polished transcript. I think industry is beyond that. I think they've seen through the smoke and mirror show of a polished transcript. I think they're wanting now more skills, more tangible skills. I think that's education with purpose. Community relevance. Education with purpose has to have community relevance for your community. And we touched on that last episode, if your educational processes or process, if you have multiple processes, but if it's not relevant to your community, then you're abusing the responsibility for using their tax dollars to build talent for industries that don't exist in your community. I mean, I know that may seem some controversial, but that's education with purpose. Transferable skills. Education with purpose is skills that are transferable. Education with purpose is future focused. I mean, I feel like I'm just like a Hallmark card, just throwing out two like one-liners here. But I mean, those are the things that I really think that education with purpose is knowing the goal and how to get there. So when you think about mission and vision, I mean, if you want, let's take it that now we're getting into like a self-help book, right? But mission and vision. Vision's where we're going, right? Mission's how we get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's education with purpose. A student comes in and you use a tool like YouScience to give them vision. Okay, I thought I wanted to be a vet, and YouScience confirmed that. That's my vision. Now, what are the steps to take to become that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or I thought I wanted to be a vet, but YouScience opened my eyes to the areas of engineering where I'm really skilled. I'm going to pursue that. Now, what are the steps to take to get there? Or I want to go right to work, and I would be really good in manufacturing. Okay, now there's the vision. What's the mission? How do we get there? And I think that's education with purpose, is just strip away all the nonsense, strip away all the biases, and say, what is your vision? And is it backed by data and more than just interest? Because kids don't need us to tell us what they're interested in. Like, they know what they're interested in. But what do you like, and what could you be good at? And let's combine that, let's amalgamate that into a mission or into a vision. Where do you want to go? And that's my job to show you how are we going to get there. That to me is how I would summarize mission or education with purpose.
I was picturing like you have a map to a treasure chest, and you like X marks the spot, versus like you're on an island and you got to dig it all up.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. That's such a good example. Yeah,
that's a great example.
Exactly. Like purpose is the X. Like, here, investigate here. Start here. Like you may not find it, but at least this is where you start. Like
Yep.
so many kids come to high school and they don't even know where to start. Or
Yep.
worse, they're picking their elective classes for all the wrong reasons. It's the class my best. It's a big school, and it's the class my best friend took, and so I want to make sure I'm in a class with at least one friend. So we're going to take this class together, knowing you don't have any interest in that area, or you have young, strapping, gentlemen who choose to take the fashion class because it's the best odds of getting a date for homecoming. So, I mean, there's a lot of really dumb reasons kids pick courses, right? Education with purpose kind of dilutes all of those outside influences and just says, what do you want to do, and how are we going to get there? Like that's it. Give me an X. I love that analogy, Allie. Let's put an X on the map. Every kid gets an X. There it is. Boom.
Next. Forget the A, B, C, D, F.
Yes.
You
Every
get an
kid
X.
gets an X. Every
I
kid gets
think
an X. I love
think
it.
that would be so much better.
That's
Right, here's
that's
your
going to
map.
be a new article for me.
Yes.
I'll give you guys credit.
Love it.
Every kid, I'm writing it down right now. I'm not joking.
So when I think about this, I'm like, okay, great. I know about engineering. And if you didn't listen to last week's episode when I shared my whole engineering, like should have, could have, would have story, go back and listen to it as well as everything else. But okay, great. It's 2025. I go to school, and Jason is helping me with my YouScience results, and it reveals that I have an aptitude for engineering. Cool. So like now what? Like how do I make it real? How do I connect that to students like right now? Because like let me just preface this with, if you don't, right? Like I sub in a lot of different districts. And when I see students disconnected from school, they are just on their phone, asleep, socializing. Their purpose becomes their choice.
Disengaged.
And high schoolers, when given I would say a free-for-all, so to speak, or they don't feel connected to their learning, they're not going to choose to engage.
Yeah.
And so like I'm interested in, okay, what happens when a student does see their connection to school and their futures, and they have purpose, they have agency, they have the X.
Yeah. I mean, I guess agency is a great way to answer that. Is when you give a student buy-in, maybe another way to phrase that. I've seen, I've mentioned a little bit last episode on trying to create the buy-in and get past the, it's one more thing I gotta do mentality. And so I've done quite a bit of work with some of our special ed teachers and using YouScience to build in and identify transition plan goals. Because it gives you careers and it gives you outlines and it gives you those things. And, I get knocks on my office door and it's like, hey, can we look at this kid's results? I'm like, yeah, come on in. Like, I don't care what I'm doing. Like, unless I'm with Peter and Allie, I will stop what I'm doing and I will do YouScience stuff with someone all day. And so there's so many kids in our schools who never have an individually significant experience. Maybe their group does, and some kids do, but how many kids come to school and they just, I'm in a big school. How many kids come to school and just go to school, go to class, they don't cause a problem, and they just go unrecognized, right? And that's not by intent. Gosh, we love kids. That's why we do what we do. But on the same spectrum, in the same vein, how many students come to school and they never get celebrated? How many students come to school, maybe in the special ed department, and all they hear are, we've got to modify and accommodate, and we've got to help and what they're hearing is, I can't do this. And we need to change a little bit of that language. And so YouScience, when a kid sees, man, like I can tell a kid, I don't care what your IEP says. I don't care what your grades are. You can do this without exception. You will be good at this. That is life-changing for a kid. Like, 'cause you can take a kid who struggles in every single area. One of my best friends, his name's Elton. I won't use his last name. He works with foster students. He may be a bigger champion for YouScience than I am. Because he's like the foster kids in a foster care system, all they hear about are their struggles and this and this and this. And he said the cool thing about YouScience, because Georgia has a state contract, is wherever they go in Georgia, as long as they're in Georgia's foster care system, YouScience tracks them. Like their stuff goes from school to school, school to school. So putting that in a kid, what it creates buy-in. What about a student, a young man that we worked with didn't really like math, and the teachers were having some buy-in issues with him in math. And so his I don't know if it was his case manager or one of his special ed teachers came to me and just said, um, we just looked at his results and the kid took an interest in welding. And I don't know that he ever was gotten that because it was just a couple of, last spring. Um, but because, and he's like, he started telling the student, hey, look, you may not like geometry, but if you want to be a welder, you got to learn some geometry. And so they started seeing, the kid was taking it serious. Now we don't have any longitudinal data. I don't have any crazy cool success stories that he's now a master welder for Ford or, I mean, it's just happened a few months ago at the end of, back in April and May, as we're helping that student build in some stuff for their transition plans. But that's what happens when you give a student this type of autonomy and this type of advocacy and agency is they can make these decisions and then it gives them buy-in into a system where they really, for the most part, have just been a part of the system. Like now the system is designed to give them individual customized success.
Hmm.
And it's kind of emotional sometimes when you see it. Like when kids are just like, wow, I can do this. And there's no caveat. There's no disclaimer. You don't have to modify or accommodate. I don't have to sit in a meeting with 3 teachers and my mom and dad on the phone and all these plans to make me successful. I can just do this on my own. Absolutely, son. Absolutely, ma'am. You could do this on your own. I'm here to help. Like that's a tool that I've never had as a practitioner in education, except for the past 4 or 5 years using YouScience.
Hey everyone, this episode of Disrupt Education is powered by YouScience, and they're all about making every student connected and ready for what's next.
Yeah, if we really want students prepared for life after high school, they've got to connect what they're learning in the classroom to real careers.
Through aptitude discovery, industry recognized certifications, and real connections with employers, students start to see what's actually possible, not just what's on a checklist.
And let's not forget, for educators, YouScience gives us the tools to build those connections for every student at scale. That's the foundation of a truly career-ready learner.
Check it out at uscience.com/disrupt education -podcast. One of the things early on, I did have a student who was a blacksmith, and he taught me some calculus with being a blacksmith. And that was in one of my early episodes about 9 years ago or so. And to your point, Jason, that's really where you start to make these connections. And guess what, right? You can do this. But I wanted to kind of go into some insights and go into the 2025 post-graduation readiness report. And there's going to be, some damning numbers here. But I'll read a couple of these off, and then I'm just going to ask, how do these align with what you see? But here we go. Only 35% of the class of 2024 pursued a 4-year degree, and that's down from 55% in 2019. 72% of graduates say they felt only moderately, slightly, or not at all prepared for life after high school. I can say that's probably very similar to college. 77% said they would have been more engaged in school if they had understood their aptitudes earlier. From the 2024 workforce report, 86% of employers report entry-level hires needed additional training. And our final one is 90%. That's 90% of employers say stronger K through 12 and post-secondary partnerships are critical to talent pipelines.
Yeah.
How do they align with what you see, Jason?
Let's go backwards. 90% saying partnerships, industry education partnerships are key. And that's kind of whatever platform I have, whatever, audience I have on LinkedIn or whatever. is built on that platform. That education needs to be better at speaking the language of industry, because we are leveraging their tax dollars to build them talent. And I know that again, some people may say, Jason, that makes you talk about kids as an asset. And while I understand their objection, kids are so much more than an asset. They are an asset. That's my job. My job is to make them employable. And so I do. I mean, I see them off in a lot of other windows and frames, but I do look at them as a product, as an asset, because that's what makes them employable. So I would agree with that. And I think that YouScience is a tool that can help that industry understand the talent that's coming through the school system, starting in the middle school level. And so I would not only champion and admonish and beg every industry to reach out to their school system and say, do you have access to YouScience? If so, I want to see some of this trending data. If not, why? Is it financial? Will help. Okay, does that make sense? Like, do you have it? I want the data. If you don't have it, why don't you have it? Is it because it's a financial issue and buying it? Will help. It is that valuable to partnerships and building that, because now you can track data. This is something that we're doing in my community, and I can't talk a lot about it, but I will crack the egg on this show just because you're that special. But my friend Elton and I are working on a pilot with YouScience to do some pretty unique things in our community, leveraging it within industry. I've talked to the development authority, and I've given some assessments to a lot of industry leaders in our community, because I want them to see the same way, Allie, when I met with you and I went over your results with you, and you were like, holy crap, like this, like that put me on paper, right? The same way people are not going to advocate for something. We're talking about exposure for students to careers. We need to expose industry to the value of YouScience. And that's what we're doing in my community. So not only can they see the results, they see the potential, but they begin to saturate the market with understanding the terms. What does it mean to be a blended liaison, or extroverted brainstormer, or introverted generalist? What do those things mean? And then begin to track the student success rates through work-based learning. If I put a blended energizer with you and they didn't work well in that field, okay, great. Maybe next time I'll try to look for either an introverted generalist or extrovert specialist, and we'll move on the peripherals of this. And people are saying, I don't know what that means. No, then use YouScience because you will, and it's great. But I mean, we're trying to saturate the market. So not only that the industry can understand that, but we can also begin to track student success through career metrics and say, all right, this student came to me and they had this and this and this, and they did great. But the last intern you sent me didn't really have the best outcome. We ended up moving them to this division of our business and industry, and they did well. And so I said, okay, let's look at this. They didn't do well here, so let's maybe not put students here who have this same skill set, maybe, or this same aptitude, but instead let's put them here. It gives me better outcomes for placing students, gives industry better outcomes for working, and I can actually go and recruit specific things for building those partnerships. So YouScience is a phenomenal tool for building those partnerships from the ground up.
Yeah.
Target marketing. If you walk into, I won't use their name because again, I don't want to give them any free publicity on your program, but it is a store, and their logo is a bullseye. Okay. If you were to go into their parking lot, just know they have scanners on their light poles. They're scanning your license plate. They want to know what time you shop. They want to know where you shop. They want to know what you buy. And I'm not saying I'm against that. I mean, I'm fine. They are target marketing their customer. It is worth billions of dollars for them and other people in that same space to target market their customer. YouScience gives us in education the exact same capability, but we're not using it. No other company does it. And I've seen them. YouScience gives us the exact, and the people who are just tuning in, I am not on YouScience's payroll. I'm a passionate practitioner, and I sing their praises. I advocate for them because it's changed my students' lives. Every other for-profit sector would pay a lot of money to have access to the type of information about their customer that YouScience gives educators about theirs, and we don't use it. We need to be using it to build those partnerships, to strengthen those partnerships. The proof of concept is already established. You don't have to establish proof of concept. It's there. I've done it. People across the country have done it. Don't worry about establishing the proof of concept. It's established. Just leverage it for success. We've already done all the hard work. The heavy lift is over. Just enjoy the fruit of the lift. It's already there.
The tree got planted many years ago.
Yeah, just come by and pick an apple. You're welcome,
Yeah.
everybody else.
Of all the stores you could have picked, the one with the bullseye. My uncle worked for them for his whole career and was actually in the field you are talking about. So I know very specifically of, like, he was on the design team for stores and piloting different lighting, shelving, product placement, the heights of things, you know, the facing, the floor, what colors, everything for 30 years in order to get more sales out of people. That was his whole career. And then
Was he an IO psychologist? That's industrial and organizational psychology. It's one of my favorite fields. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know what his actual degree is in, but I mean,
I bet it's IO.
He taught at university as part of, you know, like retirement, how to do that, right? Like he taught students how to do it. And like he started a program, he funded it through businesses because the businesses were like, we want the talent to come work for us. Like, we need them.
Absolutely.
I think the statistics here are really interesting because, right, if a student knew they had an aptitude for something, they would be more engaged. It's saying that like 77% of students said they would have been more engaged in school if they'd understood their aptitudes earlier.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? Like if you're,
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're going to go buy a car, like, I mean, unless you're just really wealthy and you can just throw money down the drain, like you're going to do some research on that car. If you're going to buy a house, you're going to look at the neighborhood. You're going to look at the crime rates. You're going to look at the school systems. You're going to look at, you're going to do so much research before you make a decision. Yet we want kids to come in here and we don't want to give them individual customized plans for research. We want to give them blanket approaches, take all the same classes, all of this, and then go to college and pay a lot of money to go to college and find it out later, right? You know, I wrote in a recent article, it's the world's most expensive laboratory and we often fund it with borrowed money. Think about that. College is the world's most expensive laboratory. Just go and find out what you want to do in college. Yep. And then they fund it with borrowed money. That's why the student loan debt problem is such a crisis in our country. So if you give them aptitudes, that becomes the basis for which they make their decisions. You wouldn't make decisions about something without having a little bit of data. Like this is the data that funds their journey. Mm-hmm. They can actually be advocates in their own process. So it's 77%. Like that is nothing short of an indictment of our current system. Like that's what that is. Like that's indictment. Like you know, you may not be on trial yet, but it's coming. Like that 77% is an indictment. And I don't know how to change that other than doing what we're doing, you know, screaming on the bullhorn, you know, pointing, but I do know how to solve. I do know the problem that would solve that is aptitude awareness, and saturate your entire school system with aptitude awareness from middle school all the way through graduation. Saturate them with making sure that they know what their aptitudes are, what they're not. And if you want to go into a career where you don't really have a lot of aptitudes, maybe here's an acceleration program for how you can acquire that or build that or grow in that area. Or what if you have a really high aptitude that is not present in your current field, the job you want to go? Maybe you find a side gig or side hustle or an extracurricular activity or a hobby that scratches that itch. Being equipped with understanding how your mind works, how you prefer to work, what the environment is, how you prefer to handle tasks, and knowing those things allows you to make decisions about a career that I wish I would have had it. Is that the best way to answer that question? I wish I would have had it. I wish I would have had that level because I just threw, I mean, I played baseball in college. And so I literally picked my career. This is such a terrible story, but I picked my career.
That's a horrible preface of a story, man. Come on.
Well, it's a terrible career for a teacher. Like if you really want to hear the whole
It's
story,
true.
I did a miniature keynote on it. It's on my LinkedIn page. But basically it's like I picked my career because I wanted to stay in athletics. And education was only I could stay in athletics after I graduated. And there's another key part to the front story, but I don't want to bog your story, your podcast down with that. But there was a traumatic event that pushed me into education, and I was told by my counselor it's an easy place for you to get an easy degree, and you can still coach. I was this close to being one of those career coaches who just was a teacher to coach, and that's terrifying because. But luckily, I had two really good principals who saw my aptitudes and basically walked me through these. This is before YouScience even existed, and really gave me a passion for being an educator. And then I learned YouScience, and it affirms my results and all these extra things. But yeah, it's data. Give the kids the data to make a decision. We wouldn't buy a house, a car without the same type of data. We wouldn't do it.
Yeah. I wrote a blog back in the day about why am I going to buy my son a Ferrari if he doesn't even have a driver's license?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't even know how to drive, and we do it every day in when students go into their first year of college. Like, we
Absolutely.
do it all the time,
And it's pretty
myself
much cost the
included.
same as the Ferrari now. That's pretty
Yeah.
much what tuition costs now. Is a
Yeah.
Ferrari.
Oh,
What's the
yeah.
guy?
Yeah.
Well, I heard someone say the other day he was like a wealthy investor, and he was like, when you send your kid to college, it's like buying a Mercedes and just push it off a cliff.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's brutal. Now again, I'm not anti-college.
No,
I
not at
am
all.
anti one size fits all approach. I want to preface that because I don't want to make anyone think that I'm anti-college or your podcast is anti-college.
Mhm.
We're anti-push everyone to college as a laboratory and figure it out later. And
Right.
then, by the way, discover that you should have probably been a welder in construction, and now you have saddled with student loan debt and a 4-year degree you can't use. And that infamous term I absolutely despise, underemployed, such a negative stereotype. Absolutely. Like when the unprepared, 70% of grads are unprepared.
Mhm.
Why is that?
Yeah.
It's because we're inundating them with the academic component, and we're not giving them those transferable skills, those future skills that are going to translate to any single job.
Mhm.
Those durable skills, those employability skills. We don't call them soft skills. We know
Yeah.
that.
We don't do that.
But employers want more train. Like the employers, what I see with my employers is they're asking for so can you quantify 86% of employers need training? Are you talking about like training, like once we hire a student, that statistic there, once we hire a student, did I write that down wrong? 86% of
Yeah.
Yeah,
employers need training.
they need
Yeah.
additional training. So they're like, oh
Entry
my
level.
gosh, they need trained. And
Industry
I'm going to
level.
guess that's going to be more in those
Yeah.
transferable skills.
Yeah, absolutely. Those transferable skills, those employability skills,
Mhm.
which the kids, and that's another thing is we don't teach our kids how to self-advocate.
Right.
You got to put kids in a work-based learning environment
Mhm.
so they get or something's on the line.
Yeah.
That's how you get them more training. And yeah, I mean that data is strong, and it screams to me loud and clear that whatever the system is designed on, it's left wanting. It needs something.
Right. And
It needs something.
I'll be the first one to say, like, when there's something on the line, our students at our school, I mean, a lot of people know I'm an internship coordinator, so our students we don't place our interns, so we say you have to go out and you have to go interview, you have to be hired by them. We can't tell somebody to hire you, like, so.
Yeah.
And when those things are on the line, that makes a difference. And it is, for a lot of students, it's a harsh reality, but we've never had a student walk out of our program saying, man, that really was terrible. I didn't learn anything. So, and that's not even, I mean, now as we're talking here, I know you shared a great story in the first episode, but kind of like I want to look at like humanizing the purpose, right? So we kind of looked at the gap and how a young man kind of, found something there. But let's talk a little bit about maybe a student who gained some purpose through their aptitudes and exposure. And we added those, maybe even some
Yeah.
credentialing, some motivation. Talk
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that, Jason.
Oh man, this is a good story. This is probably one of my favorite, and it's recent. But I have a young man who wants to be a pilot, and there are not a lot of options I can give him in that area in work-based learning, right? I mean, probably could have got him a job working at the airport, doing like, working fuel or, working, those things. We have a small airport, but flies directly into Atlanta. And if you're going to go anywhere, you got to go through Atlanta. We all know that, right? Um, so we can, I could have done that, but I mean, it's not the same as being a pilot. And so he was very open with that. And it was like, uh, well, what else can I do? I mean, if I can't do a pilot work by starting, and the kid's a very smart, bright kid. And so I said, we looked at his YouScience results, and what we saw was that there was a really like all of his skills, and like I said, I wish we had time to just go through and name all of them in his YouScience report. But they all pointed to a strong affinity toward entrepreneurial ventures.
Hmm.
That he liked to build protocols. And so these are beyond the beyond the bold, I call them beyond the bold terms of YouScience into the minutia. When you click on the domain and you're looking at what does it mean to be a sequential thinker? What does it mean to be this? And it gives you all the results. Like all these things are talking about the fact that he was a student who loved examining protocols, was very good at following protocols, but liked to also edit them to make them more efficient. Liked data. So he's easily able to track, business things. And we had this really good conversation. And so then the student was like, well, if I want to be a pilot, what if I just started a business and that was my work-based learning. And then I could just sell the business whenever I'm ready to be a pilot. And I was like, that's not a mindset that you get from at the time a 16-year-old very often, right? I'm just going to create. And it was so funny because he was like, I don't know if I want to go work in retail and make somebody else money. So if I'm going to work, can I just build a business and then I can make money while I'm working? But then when I'm ready to go to pilot school, I can just sell the business. And it was like, yeah, like, do you even need me? Do you need a career counselor? Do you need a work-based learning coordinator? Like, I think you kind of have outkicked your coverage here. Like you're teaching me things at this point. But yeah, so the young man started a business. He has a mobile detailing business. He was in my third level class last semester. He's a fourth level student now. He'll be a fifth level student, one of only four I've ever had
Hmm.
who've had me for 5 semesters. Um, he owns a mobile detailing business. I don't want to share specifically what he makes, but I can tell you that it's significantly more than almost anybody on this campus.
Hmm.
Maybe save our upper level administrators. I mean,
Wow.
he's making good money,
Hmm.
without even a high school diploma. And why is that? Well, one is because he's doing work that nobody else really wants to do. But he's basically he drives to people's businesses and he washes their car while they're at work. And he has built an app where people can kind of
Wow.
go through and schedule this stuff. And so that his first 2 years in my program, he was an exceptional work learning student, did everything I asked him to do. His timesheets were turned in all the time. I mean, just great student. Um, and then this year he comes to me and he's like, Mr. V, I gotta ask you a question. I was like, yeah, they call me Mr. V. Y'all probably didn't know that, but
Okay.
he's like, Mr. V, I'm asking you a question. I was like, yeah, what's going on? It's like, um, can can I hire somebody? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, can I hire a work-based learning student to come work for me? And I was like, yeah. I mean, one, yes, you can do that too. Please do that. It's a pretty cool story. I'd love to tell it. And so I've called the people, and from what I can tell, he's the first person in Georgia's history of work-based learning, at least, to be a work-based learning student, owning a business, and then having also be a work-based learning employer. So he is a student in my program. who owns his own business. And this is not like cash on the table. Like he employs an accountant. Like he takes his financials through an accountant. So it's real deal. And he's hired a student who is in my program now who works for him. I don't know how I'm gonna do the evaluations yet because the student is gonna both be evaluated. So I have it set up where his customers evaluate him because that's his stakeholder or his customers, but then he's going to evaluate the student. That's a new paradigm, new thing for me. But that entire story was because he was able to go in and look, and we were able to piece together a really strong case, take all these puzzle pieces together, all the intricacies, the levels, the details, and say, hey, I'm seeing a pattern here.
Mm-hmm.
You could own a business. And he was like, well, can I just do that for work-based learning? And I was like, we've never done it before. Let's do it. Why not? Like, why don't you? Yeah, I mean, small businesses are the heartbeat of a community. Why are we going to do that? And so again, such a cool story. So I'll say this. Let me paraphrase this. In an environment where all of my students are looking for an opportunity, this young man used YouScience to create one. That's next level. Everyone else is looking for an opportunity. He used YouScience to say, you know what? I'm going to make my own opportunity. And now, not only did he make his own opportunity, he's providing opportunities for other students because he made his opportunity with you. Like that is so cool. And people are like, yeah, Jason, but you've been using this for a long time. Guys, look, YouScience has given me access to all these things that have unlocked these cool stories I've been telling you. But I'm not like a super user. Like it's that easy for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like all it takes is have a conversation with your students over their results and just talk through it. Just take a 15 minutes to talk with one of your students and sit and let them look at it and come in with questions and let's build a plan. Like it's I'm not saying this from like some super elevated, ivory tower position of I'm the world's best YouScience user. I'm just saying I'm someone who loves it, but I'm just a normal guy who clicks on a student's name, pulls up their report, and is like, "Yes, obvious. Here's a pattern. Let's do this." And he's like, "Yeah, let's do." I mean, it's that simple. It's not rocket science. Although I think that kid could probably be a good rocket scientist if he wanted to. He's that gifted. But yeah, that's a cool story to me. I would love to tell that story. I said I called our previous state director and was like, "Has this ever happened under yours?" And he's the guy who started work-based learning in Georgia, and he was like, "No, never."
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I can tell, I haven't really heard back. So just for the sake of clarity, he is either the first or he is one of the first.
Mm-hmm.
I have not heard back from our current state director. I've asked, but I called other people who would know, who do what I do across the state, and they're like, "Yeah, I've never heard of that. Never heard of that." So I'm comfortable saying if he's not he's one of the first.
I just think like the ripple effects from that are huge, and that's just one story.
I hope it's huge.
Yeah.
I hope people
No,
say this is what can happen. Yeah, absolutely.
It is what can happen. It is what is happening, right? This is just like a story of many. It's a really cool one of how, having purpose can unlock something inside of you. Like, I think this is bigger than, it's not, yes, high school is like a very formative time, but I'm thinking like college kids, it's not too late for you. Like me and Peter took it and like it helped us in ways to validate like what we're doing and how we're moving. And I just think of a business too, right? Like you want to better understand your workers and like who is successful at your company. Like what a better way than to have something like this. Like your example of like it's target marketing. It's data on your people that companies would pay a lot of money for.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like I just think it's like it's a no-brainer.
And it's something that we've tried with a couple of my business partners is as I place students with them, I'm just taking their YouScience results and putting them in categories. And then at the end of the internship, I'm labeling it either a productive or an unproductive partnership, meaning are they going to be retained or not? If they're not going to be retained, then even if they leave on good terms, I'm going to code they don't want to retain them as unproductive or good, not a great outcome. But if they're retained, I code that in my spreadsheet. I'm a nerd. Okay, thank you. But I code it in my spreadsheet as a positive outcome. And then over time, I'm going to get a pretty good picture of all the positive outcomes
Yep.
and what aptitudes and interests and domains and core drivers they have in common, which allows me to place them better. It allows me to, as a coordinator and a director, it allows me to recruit better for that employer. So once I have a picture of what someone who succeeds looks like, and more importantly, what someone who doesn't do well in this job, I can begin to kind of vet that out for that placement and maybe find another placement. We are realizing we are narrowing the scope for success. Does that make sense? We're widening opportunity, but we're narrowing the scope for not success, for failure. Because if I can weed that out from the beginning and put you in a position where you're more likely to succeed, YouScience is the engine that's driving that for me. My student I told you who owns his own business now, you should have seen him at my reverse career fair just going ham on all the alphas with his YouScience results. Just boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, man, this kid is going to take my job in a few years if he needs a job. He may be retired in a few years. I don't know. But it's just when the kids see it. So maybe going back to a question I think you asked me last episode, what's it look like when a kid sees it? Maybe it's this episode. I don't know. I'm so excited. I can't tell. What's it look like? Like when the kid gets it, when they see it, like they're so excited because there's certainty. It's not just ambiguity. It's certainty. Like this is what I can do. And that is such a cool experience and feeling as a teacher, that a student has an actual plan, not the plan that was given to all 900 in their freshman class, but an actual customized plan for him, for her, based on their aptitudes, filtered through their interests, and capstone with work-based learning. Are you kidding me? This should be national news, not me, not your, national news. This is changing kids' lives. I don't know why it's not a bigger deal.
It's going to be. It is.
Yeah.
That's why we're talking about it.
We're doing a series here.
Exactly.
You're the national news.
Right.
The people.
Yeah,
So,
you guys are going to be syndicated in a few years, and
let's go, right?
Absolutely.
Shelve your disbelief, right, Alli? One thing though, that I love the fact that it gives clarity to students. It really gets them excited and really understanding. And you just shared an amazing story there. What about, so you've done this long enough. There's community members, employers. They've got to be like, yo, what's the secret sauce thing here with YouScience, Jason? Do you have any what does that look like? What challenges or what successes are in that area?
Specifically with students and employers,
like you've got a community that you're building pipeline for, and some of them have to see that these kids are talking about YouScience, you're talking about YouScience. Are they like, what is YouScience, man? Tell me a little bit more. Can I see?
Absolutely. So we have really targeted. That's something that my friend Elton and I are doing in our community through our Chamber of Commerce, is trying to just get people to see, hey, look, this is what's coming. And we're at the forefront of this because luckily Georgia has a contract with YouScience, so high school and middle school students have access to this. We're on the forefront of this. And unfortunately, this is not widely used. Okay. And I don't mean that in it's a lot of people have that one more thing to do mentality, right? And so we have been trying to eradicate that mentality. One, doing it before industry, doing it with other school systems who have access and who just don't know the power of it. I mean, it's like having, I don't know, I can't even think of a good example. It's like having a Ferrari engine. You mentioned Ferrari in your Ford Focus and just never pressing the gas pedal, right? Like you just don't know the power that's there until you give it the beans and you open it up. And that's what we're starting with schools and saying, hey, look, that you need to use this, because if we all start using YouScience the way that I would say I am, and I'll put myself forward as that success case, if we're all are doing it that way, then we're going to really force industry's hand to do it, right? But I don't know that that's even the right perspective. If we all do it, we're creating the data, and then we go to industry and say, here's the data on not like transcript data, like actual data on the future workforce, not just from your community, but from your region. Regionalism is the new thing, not new, but it is the big thing in economic development now. Is, I live in a hub city where a lot of smaller rural communities, people come to my community to, we grow by over twice our population from 9 to 5. People come in from other communities to work. So saturating the market with getting all the talent to have it, and then going into industry and talking about the competitive advantages that they're going to receive and realize by pipelining these kids, identifying them early. Because again, we go back that are they a product, an asset, a client, a customer, a stakeholder? I view my students as a product, not in an insensitive way. And my job is to help them put all the things together in a package that is easily hired. That's my job. So it's easy for me to see them as a product. I'm not dehumanizing them, but that's just how I view students, right? Because I need to package them and put them in front of an employer, and then, oh yeah, I can hire this person. So when you do that and you see that the employers are seeing the students, they're seeing the skill sets, they're qualifying the skill sets. And if you really want to go, you can quantify the skill sets to see where they're at on and what gauge and spectrum. It really becomes powerful. I would say that industry, the biggest barrier, I would say, if that was kind of where your question was going, is or obstacle is, and this is sad, I just don't think industry is in a position now to trust education because we've broken so many promises. That's sad. I think YouScience is the Band-Aid that fixes that. It's the surgery. It's the super glue for people who like me, who like to super glue their cuts instead of Band-Aid. It's the medicinal intervention for what ails schools. Like, that's not hyperbole. It is the intervention that will fix it'll bridge the gap. It'll fix the broken bridge between industry and education, because we can speak the common language. It's putting students in a position to succeed where they're going to succeed. You can pipeline them. You can track students from not necessarily students, but track trends of student aptitudes from middle school all the way through high school. You can begin to build programs, instructional programs, pathways. You can your development authority can begin to use that data when people are filing those RFIs for, should I bring my company to your community? Your development authority can use YouScience data to say, yes, look, over the past 6 years, look how many kids have aptitudes for areas that translate directly into your workforce. Like we did, but they just don't know. They just don't know. And the companies that do know, they need to see the proof of concept, because I think education has broken so many promises with industry, or we've treated them like philanthropists and just do it because the kids need it. No, bullcrap. Do it because my kid can come in and make you money and be a returnable asset that you retain long term. And you do it before your competitors know who they are, so you get a massive advantage in the labor market by hiring them when they're 16 and retaining them till they retire. Like, stop talking philanthropy and start talking return on investment. That's what YouScience is about. It's the seasoning on that return on investment conversation, and it tastes good. It's good seasoning.
Mic drop. And that's great. Yep. I think what you're getting at is that it can build, like, it's not just the X, it's the whole map to get you there. And also industry, can use it to help schools realize, like, the gaps that they're missing in order to really help students get from A to X, okay, you have an aptitude for this. Okay, like, we want to get you in internships, apprenticeship, certifications, work-based learning programs, etc. And industry can be like, we need this, and these are the skills that they need before they would maybe be ready for us.
Yeah,
And so it's like backwards design
absolutely.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
terms of like that's what I think school has gotten away from. We've created these standards that are like pie in the sky, in the clouds. They're not really relevant to like
Hmm.
the skills that industry is wanting, which is where you're getting those broken promises.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And so it's like now we can come and say, okay, these are the aptitudes, and the industry can be like, these are the skills we need, and let's come together to make school about that
Yeah,
again. And that's where I think
absolutely.
redesigning programs, classes, schedules, how a school even
Yeah,
operates, like could
yeah,
be done so differently just by knowing who's in the building, what are they good at? What are they
yeah, hmm,
innately good at? And what are they interested in? And it's going to be
yeah.
such a game changer.
And we understand that when you choose as an administrator, I'm not one who would make that decision. I understand that that can seem insensitive. I'm talking about sunsetting a program because there's a teacher who's involved in that, right? Well, how about that? Give the teacher a YouScience assessment and transition them to another instructional area.
Perfect.
You know, and I love your analogy of the X on the map because an X on the map is so valuable because it tells you where to dig. But I think lost in that analogy that we're going to bring to surface right now is it also tells you where not to waste your time digging.
Mhm.
And giving a student an X on the map is not just saying, hey, dig here. It's saying, hey, look, I mean, you can dig over here if you want to, but that may not be the best use of your aptitudes. And so we're not restricting students. They can choose whatever career they want.
Yeah.
YouScience is a tool that is meant to guide them into a career so they experience greater success rates because it's scientifically driven by their aptitudes and interests. So if you can give me a map, even if you were just to put it in quadrants, say just dig in this quarter, you still
Sure.
enhance my success rate,
Mhm.
which is a lot of other assessments are going to divide a big map into four quadrants and say just dig over here, right? Okay, good. That's great. YouScience doesn't just give you quadrants. It breaks it down into a specific grid, and then it breaks that quadrant down into like an 80 by 80 grid, and then it puts an X in one of those grids. Like
Yeah.
that's how much more accurate it is than everything else on the market. It is not just a map. It's not just a quadrant. It's not just grids in the quadrant. It's an X on the map in one of those grids in the quadrant on the map. And it just eliminates so many other things that students don't have to, they can still consider it, but it just says, this is really where your greatest success rate may lie.
Yeah.
And I think that's invaluable for a school system, especially a big school system, especially for a school system that's resource strapped.
I got into teaching because I'm a video producer, which, by the way, came on my
Aptitudes.
YouScience
There you go.
aptitude.
It's, I
It
mean, it's
was
almost a joke how accurate it is. It's not
number
a joke. It's
three,
real.
right?
Yeah.
And honestly, though, I do remember they were third through fifth graders, and a lot of people heard this story if you're a fan of the podcast. But we were doing daily announcements. It was back in the day in the VHS days. I'm aging myself here, but the students, some of the students were not having a good go at English
Yeah.
and math and such.
Yeah.
And so when they started to have to script and they had to do some math to do some editing, etc., all those types of things, they went back into the classroom with a little more purpose. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's a smidgen of what we're talking about here. That's the
Hmm.
experience and kind of adapting that to kind of, okay, this is the academic part. And
Yeah.
you add these aptitudes in and some more interests. Now you're
Hmm.
talking like amazing, amazing. X marks the spot on the map.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
no lie. So, I have lived it. I have seen it on both sides. Really, what we're doing here is we're putting aptitudes and some certifications and credentials and different like what's next for these
Yep.
students,
Yep.
handing them or giving them some experiences, even if they're not exactly lined, they're closely lined, they're in the quadrant.
Yeah.
And now you're talking career ready students, right?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
and that's something that really, when I go back and think about what I started this entire podcast on and started asking people, well, how would you change it? And then you started to change your classroom, what you could control,
Mm-hmm.
to what these students were suggesting. Now, and I'm telling you, you add the technology of YouScience in on this,
Yeah.
it's got to be amazing. And Jason, again, thank you so much. I think this is why, like, it's coming. You're on the front of our district disrupt education podcast, saying like CTE is coming gangbusters,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
love that. But I think that's why urgency matters here. I think that's why we really have. I mean, we're in a time where the economy is all over the place.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different things going on in communities. People don't know what's going to happen next with AI and those types of things. And we'll talk about that later on down in the series. But really, I do like how you've drawn purpose and connection. And then basically, if we don't connect purpose and community and learning, we're basically leaving talent out there, and that is
Yeah.
damaging. So I
Yeah.
want to thank you so much
Man, thank
for
y'all.
being with us on these first two episodes of our partnership with YouScience, the Disrupt Education podcast.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Man,
Thank
I
you for
appreciate
sharing
you
your
guys.
stories.
I mean, y'all keep banging the gong for, um, you know, for increasing efficacy in education. That's what it needs to be, and I appreciate that because that's why I think we're so close and we're good friends, and that's why we have so many off the wall text chains that are not on camera. Is because we're all making omelets, right? And sometimes to do that, you got to crack eggs. And so I need some good egg crackers in my group, and I appreciate you guys willing to do that. And so we're not doing it to hurt people; we're doing it to make a delicious omelet, and that's the purpose. Like, you got to crack eggs to make an omelet. Let's get cooking. And I appreciate you guys putting on an apron and getting in the kitchen with us. And it's an honor every time I get to come and talk to your audience. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. And guess where we're going to go? We're going to go over to Ohio and crack some eggs. Our next podcast, episode 3, we're going to hear some dynamic success stories from a district level and even a county level. So we have gone all the way through so far the problem, the gap, and then how do we start to connect it with community and purpose. And now we're going to see some grander stories on that. We've got a great series. I'm super excited. This is amazing. And I want to thank everybody for listening. Again, Disrupt Education, we're partnering with YouScience. Go check them out. We'll have a lot of information in the show notes. But until next time, keep disrupting education. For Alli Dah, that talent pipeline specialist, Jason Van Nuss, I'm Peter Hostrawser. We'll catch you next week on the podcast. That's another episode of the Disrupt Education podcast, where we keep challenging the traditional systems and helping students connect learning to real life. Here's the truth. Many students leave high school with a diploma, but without direction. Readiness isn't just about grades and transcripts. It's about discovering who you are and connecting that to real opportunities. That's why Disrupt Education is proud to partner with YouScience, the platform that helps every student uncover their unique strengths, explore career pathways, and step confidently into the world beyond school. If you believe that every student deserves to be connected and ready for what's next, check out youscience.com/disrupt education-podcast. Because when education and purpose connect, students don't just graduate, they launch.